Hello everybody, welcome to Takeaway Chinese live stream. This is Niuniu with Tony in the studio.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's a pleasure to be here. And Honglin, you are super red today.
I am super red.
I wonder if it has something to do with what we're talking about.
A little bit. Actually, if you're watching the live stream, you might be watching on CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page, YouTube channel, or 英语环球广播微博, and perhaps you're watching from Niuniu Chinese, my personal page. But wherever you're watching, it doesn't really matter because you get to talk to us directly here in the live stream. When we do Takeaway Chinese 随行汉语 live stream, we would be able to show you the recording process of this podcast show. So if you're interested in it, make sure you search for Takeaway Chinese. That's one space between takeaway and Chinese, like the food. But here it's free language tips, knowledge, very juicy information, not the food. But you can still, take it free. Take it away free of charge. And when we are doing live streams like this, we would also allow you to interact with us directly. So ask any language, culture, history, society related questions in the comment area. We'll be able to address them as soon as we see them.
Yes, and no question is stupid,
No.
okay? Be sure to ask whatever. I ask a lot of questions that are kind of stupid, actually.
There are no stupid questions, only stupid answers. Teachers always say that. I borrow that from my teacher and would say, you cannot ask stupid questions because stupid people don't ask questions. See?
I'm not sure about that.
I think go with it.
Just go with it. Okay.
Yes. So as usual, we are going to take questions. And as for today, it's a little bit special. I think in Takeaway Chinese, we would love to always, try to be relevant today. We try to be relevant in today's situations, affairs, and also activities and events. And for today, especially, we're doing the live stream because tomorrow is kind of an important day here in China. Tomorrow, which is October 22nd, marks the 85th. October 22nd marks the 85th anniversary of the triumph of the Long March, 长征胜利85周年纪念日. That'll be tomorrow. So yeah, it's been 85 years. For us, it's really hard to imagine what the country has to conquer to be what it is today, and has all these obstacles, all these problems that it's not ancestors, actually just previous generation had to achieve, had to fight against to make the society, make the country, actually make the world what it looks like today. And
well, it'd be nice to kind of hear a little bit about this long march.
Long March, 长征.
Right? Yeah, and get a little bit of a background. I mean, I've heard a little bit about it, but I don't really know the details behind it. So it'd be kind of nice to.
I think it's the situation for a lot of people outside of China nowadays. You're interested, you want to get to know it, but we always say in order to know what it is today, you got to have a little bit background information, know a little bit about the history, and that is what this special program of Takeaway Chinese is for. But first and foremost, let's see what are you guys interested in, because I see many comments already flowing in. I'm saying hello to Dilip Kashyap saying hi to us. Happy to have you here. And we also have Sholani saying, 你好吗? How are you? And you're a milestone fan. I have no idea what a milestone fan is.
That's a super fan.
A super fan. But we have top fan. That is a title you can strive to get. And we are apparently also welcoming a milestone fan.
Yeah, that's
here.
even better.
Even better, so strive for it. And Kenny is here, happy to see you. And you say, good afternoon, Niuniu, great to see you back on air. Thank you so much, happy to have you. And we also have Mashfikr saying, good job, I like these pages. Thank you very much. Also, MD Mahadi is here. And we also have Shani, who is sharing the live stream. Thank you so very much. Actually, if you like the live stream, please like and share and comment as much as possible so more people would be able to see us. The thing is, nowadays I realize when we're live streaming, we get a lot of very positive reactions from people who actually get to see us because the distribution policy is not always, let's say, allowing everybody that follows us to be able to see us. So the more you like and share and comment, the more people would be able to have access to see the live stream. And that is how you share the love. Sharing is caring.
It's how we can reach more people. And more people can listen in and hopefully be able to take something away from this Chinese session.
Oh, yeah, take something away. Anaya is here saying, ooh, what are you wooing about? Let me know. Be more elaborative on it. And also Shankar saying, very nice. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for coming here and leaving your comments and taking an interest into knowing one of the most important part of the history in the, I would say, modern history here in China. So yes, as always, we're also recording this show, but don't be hesitating when you're sending messages if you don't see us reading all of them, because we are recording Takeaway Chinese, and after actually in between and after the recording, we'll be taking comments and answering your questions and reacting to your reactions as soon as possible. So
we
do not
do our
worry about
best
it.
to try to answer what we can. When, sometimes we get caught up in the conversation.
Oh,
right?
yeah, we do that.
Yeah, but keep asking, and hopefully we'll be able to catch your questions and hopefully answer them.
Yes. All right. So with no further ado, let's start the recording and let's take some Chinese away. 你好，欢迎收听随行汉语 Welcome to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Niu Honglin. Joining me today, my good friend here in the studio, Mr. Tony Reed. Hi, Tony.
Hey, Honglin. It's a pleasure to be here, as usual.
It's always nice to have you here.
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of interesting things on the show. Sometimes I would say work-related. We talk about business trips. We talk about having a sick leave and how to say those things in Chinese.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of things.
A lot of things. And sometimes it's emotion-related. We talk about emotional regulation.
Talk about stress. Talk about money.
Anxiety.
Talk about meeting people. All kinds of things.
Yeah,
useful things for learning a language.
Oh, yeah. And I think now it is the time for you to talk about something that is a little bit deeper, that is history related.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Can't wait. So excited.
Throw that heavy, thick history to you. But actually, this part is quite, I would say, vital and substantial in order to understand Chinese and the Chinese society today.
Okay.
So we are going to talk about the Long March. Do you know what the Long March is?
I've been here a little while, and I feel like I've heard it a little bit, but I'm not a huge history buff, so
it is fine.
So no, I don't know what the Long March is.
Oh,
exactly.
You're going to have some fun today, because not only are we learning about the event, the Long March, we are also talking a little bit about the spirit of the Long March. When we talk about spirit in the Chinese sense, it has actually it has nothing to do with religion. It is not, let's say, spiritual in the soul, afterlife kind of sense.
Right, it's just,
it's a mental
essence
strength.
of
it's
something.
The essence of something.
Right.
It's something you can learn about, you can pick up and follow in practice in your daily life a little bit. So yes, we're going to talk about Changzheng, the Long March, Changzheng Jingshen, the spirit of the Long March, as well as something more interesting, or let's say something you find not that related to the topic, but actually very much related. That is rockets.
Rockets?
Rockets.
Okay.
We'll discuss all
Pretty
of
random,
that.
but all right.
Oh, they're not random at all, and you will know in today's show. So for our dear listeners, no matter whether or not you're a bit confused like Tony here, this would be a fun show for you, as long as you're interested in Chinese culture and you want to get a grip on the Chinese language. This is the show for you. Stick with us for 30 minutes and you soon see the rewards. And for more fun Chinese learning, follow our Facebook page, CRI Learn Chinese, to watch many fun videos and live streams. But now, let's provide you with some free Chinese for takeaway.
Chinese 101, a promise beyond the basics.
今天的和平与繁荣离不开先辈的努力和牺牲。是的，比如为了救国救民，长征的战士们跋山涉水，克服了重重困难，最终获得了胜利。长征精神是宝贵的财富，值得我们学习。
Sounds like a conversation from a teacher to the students, and the teacher's really trying to convince the kids that this is an interesting topic. You should be interested in this.
I think that's the thing about being a child. When I was a kid, I didn't understand the importance or the meaning of a lot of things. I didn't used to understand how vital it is to learn about our history. I didn't used to understand the significance of being persistent, being really hardworking and learning. And it's only when you grow up and you look back, you realize how important it is. And then you become you nag a lot to people younger, and you say to them, you are going to regret this if you don't do this. But you didn't quite get it unless you grow older and look back.
Well, yeah, when you get older, you realize, like you said, the importance of history, because obviously it's good to know your root so you can stand strong as an individual. But I don't know, it is kind of hard to convince the younger generation, because you've been there, you know what it's like, and you're just like, okay, yeah, I can try to tell you this, but I was who you were, or I was who you are now, so I know that. Yeah, it's kind of boring, but stick with it. But it's important. You have to know it.
And when you grow older, you would understand why you have to know it, and you understand the significance of it.
Yeah.
It's just like learning a language. It's the same thing. You put in the effort, you overcome the obstacles, and you get the beautiful, fruitful result.
Yeah,
All right.
That makes sense.
Let's start the conversation. 今天的和平与繁荣离不开先辈的努力和牺牲。
So this is today's peace and prosperity couldn't be achieved without the great efforts and sacrifice of the previous generations or the older generations. So 今天, that's today.
Today.
Or 今天的, that's today's with apostrophe S.
Yes.
And then 和平. I think this is peace, right?
It is peace. 和平. I've heard someone saying his dream would be world peace, and world peace would be 世界和平.
世界
和平.
和平.
Yeah, so 和平 is kind of like you can use it as an adjective, 和平. You can also use it as a noun, 世界和平, world peace.
Okay.
Peaceful peace.
And then 与繁荣. So 与 here, is this
And.
And.
Yes, this is a new and.
A new and.
We see and as 和 a lot, right? So 你和我, you and me. And 语 would be considered something more common in written language. Of course, you say it daily as well because it's a one-character word. It's not that hard, but it's a little bit more official when you're using it.
Right. So this is kind of a written statement anyway,
It's a little bit higher
Today's
registered.
peace and prosperity could not be achieved. I mean, people don't talk like that in reality, right?
So relatively official.
All right. So 今天的和平, so today's peace. 与繁荣.
繁荣.
This is prosperity.
Prosperity, 繁荣. If you are learning Chinese characters as well, you would probably consider 繁荣 a bit hard to write with a lot of strokes. But yeah, it's very common, and if you see it often enough, you'll be able to remember it. 繁荣, prosperity.
All right. 离不开, this is like cannot do without.
Cannot do without.
Right. 先辈.
先辈.
So this is the older or the previous generations, right?
Yes.
And then so the previous generations.
Yes.
努力.
努力.
So this is like effort.
Effort, 努力. 努力 is like hardworking and effort.
Okay.
So when you're using it as an adjective, it is hardworking. So you can say, 托尼是一个努力学习的人. Tony is the kind of person who works hard when he's learning. So hardworking learner, something like that.
So can also mean hardworking.
Hardworking or putting in much effort. So if you're putting in much effort, you're hardworking, right?
Okay.
So 努力 would be hardworking if you're using it as an adjective, and if you're using it as a noun, it would be effort, the effort you're putting in.
Okay,
so, it
so
can be
没有努力 means what? No effort.
No effort and not working hard enough. Or I think most occasions, at least in the Chinese language mentality, we would consider 努力 hardworking a very objective kind of behavior. Oh, excuse me, subjective kind of behavior. So you choose to work hard or not. So when you want to say not working hard enough, you're saying you choose not to. So instead of 没有, you use 不. So teachers might say 你太不努力了, you too much not working hard. So you're not working hard enough.
Okay.
Okay, so 努力 would be work hard or putting in effort or the effort itself. Effort.
All right. So 先辈的, so older generations, 努力. And then here it says 和. So we could say you or 和 here or
Interchangeable.
Interchangeable. All right. And then 牺牲.
牺牲.
And so 牺牲, this is like sacrifice?
Sacrifice, literally sacrifice.
Okay.
It is the sacrifice that I think, at least in today's conversation, in this context, a little more serious, a little like sacrifice your life kind of sacrifice. Yeah, so a little bit more serious.
All right.
And I think you can use it in other sense as well, but I don't recall using 牺牲 in less serious situations. So 牺牲, yes, sacrifice.
Because I think in other situations you would use the word compromise.
Oh, compromise. Compromise in Chinese would be 妥协.
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 And it kind of has a similar meaning as sacrifice in a way. But
in a way, but compromise is like you compromise a bit of your interest, whereas sacrifice is you're sacrificing something much more significant. In this sense, when we're talking about the Long March, when the Red Army used to, let's say, many of them used to sacrifice their life in order for the country to head towards a better future, to create the kind of life we enjoy here today. And they sacrifice sometimes their health, they sacrifice their life, and they sacrifice, some people even sacrifice, let's say, a part of their, well, it's just very serious, huge sacrifices.
okay, so we would use this 牺牲 instead of the compromise if it's something serious, where something is lost. Yeah.
Yes, so
Okay.
that is something rather significant. 努力和牺牲, so hardworking and sacrifice.
All right.
今天的和平与繁荣离不开先辈的努力和牺牲. And of course here we have 离不开 cannot happen without, because we know 离开 is leave. So 我离开了办公室, I left the office. 离开. And when you want to deny the word, instead of saying, or let's say if you say 不离开, you means you won't do this. But 离不开 means you can't do this. So 我离不开你, I cannot leave you. 离不开. Use this in daily conversations as well.
Okay.
So that would be the idea. And then we have the second sentence. 是的，比如为了救国救民，长征的战士们跋山涉水，克服了重重困难，最终获得了胜利。
All right, so this is true. For example, to save the nation and its people, soldiers of the Long March walked across hills and rivers and overcame a lot of obstacles and eventually were successful. So 是的, that's right or yes. And then 比如, I think this is for example, right? And then 为了. So here I'm not familiar with 为了.
为了.
What is that?
为了 is a word you would see when you want to talk about in order to. So in English you say to or in order to or
Okay.
so as to, something like that. In Chinese you say 为了. And I think you would always put the aim as a sentence after 为了. So here, 为了救国救民, so we know 救 is to save, and 国 is the country, 民 is the people. 救国救民, to save the country and the people. And this is a rather like the kind of sentence you would use in a serious situation.
Right.
But you can also use 为了 the word in other scenarios as well. So 为了瘦一点我就不吃晚饭了. In order to be thinner or slimmer, I would skip dinner. So that you can say 为了 as well.
Okay.
So 为了 in order to.
In order to.
Yes.
So yeah, again, you mentioned 救国. So 救 means to save, and then 国 is country, and 救民. So again, 救 is to save, and then 民 here, is this like people?
People, 人民, people.
人民,
Again,
yeah.
when we say 人民, it is used often in more official settings. So you say to save the people and the country, or my goal is to serve the people. You would say 我为人民服务. So to serve the people, 为人民服务. But if you're saying people are generally, let's say, kind, you can say 人们 as well. So 人们 is a lower registered people.
Okay. All right, moving on. So 长征的, so this is the long march.
Yes.
Apostrophe S. 将士们, so 将士, this is
战
soldier.
士.
Oh, 战士.
战士, yes, 战士 would be soldier.
All right. And 们 means it's plural, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then 跋山涉水.
跋山涉水.
跋山涉水. This is walking across a great distance, right?
Yes, it is a idiom. 跋山涉水 is like crossing mountains. 山 is mountain, 水 is water.
Right.
So you're climbing mountains, getting over mountains, and getting through rivers. 跋山涉水, 跋山涉水.
Okay.
So yes, great distance. 跋山涉水.
克服了.
克服了.
So this is a verb, right?
Yes.
So this is to overcome.
To overcome. Actually, 克服困难 is a set phrase. It is a correlation you would often see. So in Chinese, when you want to say you conquer obstacles, the obstacle would be 困难. 困难.
困难 means difficulty.
It means
right?
difficulties. It's difficulties or difficult.
Something is difficult.
Yes, adjective, difficult. So 困难, difficulties. And 克服困难 would be overcome the difficulties or overcome the obstacles. 克服困难. And another one that is often seen but not here in the conversation would be 改正错误. Correct your mistakes.
Okay.
Correct your mistakes. Again, you see this in daily conversations a lot because often when a teacher is praising you or when a, let's say, boss say you did a good job in a certain project, they might say for this specific team, they have overcome a lot of obstacles. They have also corrected their mistakes if there were any, and they achieved this great goal. So that would be 克服困难, overcome obstacles or difficulties.
Right.
改正错误, correct mistakes.
Okay.
Correlations.
克服困难.
克服困难, yes.
So 克服了. 重重
困难 would be many obstacles.
Oh, okay.
So
you wouldn't say 太多.
You say 太多, people understand, but it's not elegant enough.
Oh, okay. Got it. So 重重 means a lot, and then 困难, this is difficult.
Yes.
Right, or difficulties.
Yes.
最终.
最终.
So this is eventually.
Eventually.
Right.
At last.
And then 获得了.
获得了.
So 获, this is
获得 together, gain.
To gain.
Yes, because 获 we know 收获 is to gain or to, let's say, receive in a sense, and 获得 would be to obtain, to gain.
Okay. And then next we have 胜利. That's That's victory, right?
Victory, 胜利, very important, and we have victories in wars, of course, but in nowadays, when we're living in peace and stability, we would have victories in competitions or in sports games. Victory,
or
胜
in
利.
daily life too.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
daily triumph.
Yeah, just living every day is a victory, I think.
Yes, it is a victory.
Taking a breath is a victory.
胜利, yes. All right, so 是的，比如为了救国救民，长征的战士们跋山涉水，克服了重重困难，最终获得了胜利。长征精神是宝贵的财富，值得我们学习。
So this is the Long March. The spirit of the Long March is a precious treasure and worth learning about.
Yes.
Right. So Changjung. So again, this is the Long March.
Long March.
Jingshen.
精神.
So Jingshen, I know this. This is spirit, right?
It is spirit. We translate it as spirit, but I think that's the thing about language and translation. That is, for one word in one language, it might carry a different sentiment and several different meanings. And if you translate it into another language, I think some of the meanings works in both languages, but some of the meaning would get a little bit distorted. And here, 精神 in Chinese, 精神, we translate it as spirit, but sometimes it can be understood as idea, and or sometimes the kind of mental strength, the kind of essence, like you said. So 精神. And here, 长征精神, the spirit of Long March, has nothing to do with religion, of course, but it is saying the kind of things that we can take away from the Long March, that we can learn from the Long March, something we can continue practice.
I noticed that there's no duh here. I mean, could we put the duh or?
You are a shrewd observer. The thing about duh here in Chinese is that sometimes you can omit the duh, and omitting duh actually makes the conversation a little more official. So if we say 长征的精神, yes, it is the spirit of the Long March. But if we say 长征精神, it's almost like saying 长征精神 is a word, is a set phrase, is a term everyone's using. So you omit the duh. It's a little bit like making it, instead of the 长征 Long March describing the 精神 spirit, you are saying it is one word now.
Okay.
By omitting the duh.
All right. And moving right along, we have Jingshen Shi. So the spirit of the Long March is Bao Gui De. So I think this is precious, right?
Precious, valuable, 宝贵的.
Cai Fu.
财富.
So Cai Fu, I think this is like worthy, right? Or
it can be worthy. It can also be treasure. Treasure.
Treasure.
Yes, 财富. Actually, 财富 would be wealth or fortune or treasure. Something very valuable.
Something
财富.
very valuable.
And in Chinese, we would say 精神财富. So it's very valuable, but in an intangible way, in a way that you pass on from generation to generation. But it's not money. It's not actual objects. It's more of a thing that you would understand by heart, not, used to buy stuff.
Yeah, that's an
精神
interesting word.
财
That's a
富.
deep word because most things that have value have a price tag next to it,
Yeah, but not in this sense.
Okay.
精神财富.
值得.
值得.
Yeah, 值得. This is kind of like worth.
Worth.
And then 我们学习, so we study.
We study. 值得我们学习. It's worth learning. It's worth studying.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the conversation. Do you have any questions towards it?
No. Let's just give it a try.
Okay, so you be the first.
Okay, so 今天的和平与繁荣离不开先辈的努力和牺牲。
是的，比如为了救国救民，长征的战士们跋山涉水，克服了重重困难，最终获得了胜利。
长征之声是宝贵的，财富值得我们学习。
You're listening to Takeaway Chinese with myself, Niuniu and Tony. We would love to hear from you. Send us your thoughts via email to learnchinese@cri.com.cn. Coming up next, let's continue talking about the Long March, the spirits of Long March, and anything related. Don't go away, so you will take some Chinese away. And that is the recording of the first half. When it's Takeaway Chinese recordings, we tend to make sure that we break down the sentences word by word. We explain each word and we make sure we give examples if it's needed so that you will be able to not only understand what it is, but also, you will be able to use it as well.
Yeah, she tries to slow down so you can hear the tones, but I normally don't hear them.
The tone is something you have to force yourself to learn, and to start with, you understand the difference in pronunciation, so you can hear the difference before you can actually pronounce the difference.
Right.
And it takes an effort, but like I always say, in China, if you get the tones wrong, but you're speaking in long sentences, people will understand you. And it is totally fine, so don't worry about it. Don't make it an obstacle that you find too hard to overcome.
Well said, teacher.
Thank you. As always, let's say hello to you all. Christian saying, I did the long march yesterday when I missed the bus. It's safe to say it doesn't mean that, but I I understand what you're talking about.
Linguistically, long march means a long stroll, something that you have to overcome.
I think because we have 长 means long, or actually it can mean long distance as well. And 征 is 征程, expedition. So it is literally a really long distance you covered, or let's say previous generation covered. That is a military maneuver. We're going to talk all about it a little bit later in the second half of the conversation. And if you did a long march yourself, I would assume that's really good exercise for you yesterday.
Yeah.
And also have a friend asking, 你们在哪里直播? Where are you doing the live stream?
Yeah, we are in Beijing. 我们在北京。
我们在北京直播。我们在直播间直播. So this is the live studio, and we do the live stream here in Beijing in the headquarters. And yes, we do a lot of different kinds of live streams here in the office. Sometimes we go outside to different places in Beijing and even to different places in China. And previously, before the pandemic, we went out to other countries as well. Feels like a long time ago.
Yeah, it does. I could use a vacation outside of China.
Oh yeah, me too. It's just traveling around is something that we'll miss here. And also we have a friend who is a 满周年粉丝. So you are a fan of the page. You have been a fan of the page for 1 full year. See, Facebook nowadays is just rolling out all these different titles. And I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right, you're saying 困难重重, or 重重困难. That is loads of difficulties.
Lots of difficulties.
Yes. And Lisa saying great presentation as always. Thank you so very much for the lovely comments. As always, when we are doing the live stream, you guys are very welcome to ask any questions you want. And we see also Tawanda saying, still watching, very happy, thank you for sending it out. And Vivian saying, thank you for translation, thank you for being here with us. And Vivian saying, oh, I'm late now, do not worry, as long as you're here, I am very happy. All right, so let's continue the recording. And before doing that, I want to give a little bit background information. We said October 22nd marks the 85th anniversary of the triumph of the Long March, because the Long March actually took place or lasted for around 2 years. So it actually was a really long expedition, and we are celebrating the victory of it, 胜利, 长征胜利, the victory of the Long
I know
March.
Shengli.
Yes, that's triumph, you know that. And the date was set to October the 22nd, and you might find this not that relevant to today, but what's relevant is actually about the spirits of the Long March, 长征精神, because during that really long 2 years, the soldiers then had to overcome a lot of difficulties, including not having enough food, not having enough clothes, including overcome or let's say cover the distance with really extreme weather conditions. They had to climb the snow-capped mountains. They have to get across rivers, sometimes even without proper boats or ships. So they just have to do it by themselves on their own. And all these difficulties sounds like, I would say, mission impossible in today's vision, in today's perspective. Actually, for me, I won't even camp outside. For me, it's just too hard. But
why were they doing it? What was the purpose of this expedition?
well, it is a military maneuver they had to do from the south of the country to the north and the west. They were fighting against the army of the Kuomintang at that time. It was around 1934 to 1936. And during that time, it was pretty dire situation, and all these soldiers are with the, let's say, aim to, like we said in the conversation, 救国救民, save the country and save the people. And when you have a great cause, a great, let's say, dream in your heart like that, you would be with powerful and relentless effort, or the ability to put in relentless effort in that sense.
Well, it sounds like, yeah, you got to definitely believe in what you're doing to, to go through all of those different obstacles, climb mountains and snow and rivers and hills and yeah, not have food and just stay wherever you can. So yeah, you got to be passionate about it.
You got to be really passionate about it. So let's continue the recording when you got a little bit of the background already. Let's continue the recording, and we would also introduce many expressions and words generated or very, let's say, suitable to describe situation then. And hopefully you can learn a little bit something as well.
Language tips. All you need to learn about Chinese culture and have fun.
Welcome back to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Niu Honglin with Tony here in the studio. Today we're talking about, let's say, the useful, very vital spirit in life you need, the kind of mental strength, the kind of character you would have in order to have the success you need in your life. And maybe you can learn it from, let's say, previous generations into history.
Perseverance and resilience. And yes, I think we all stand on what our ancestors have done in the past, and it makes us stronger, especially when we have knowledge of what they've endured in the past. It helps us to know that we're going to be okay. They were able to survive that, so we should be able to survive what we're going through today.
Yes, and learning from the past would sometimes allow us to see clearer what's today is all about and see what to do in today's situation as well. For example, in the conversation, we used the Changzheng Long March as an example. So do you know what Long March was?
Well, earlier you kind of explained that
we would say
a commute from one side of the country to another by some soldiers.
Oh yeah, actually it was a series of epic journeys undertaken by various units of the Red Army Hongjun between October 1934 and October 1936. They were threatened by the Kuomintang forces. They were determined to preserve their strength and head north to confront the Japanese invasion. So for Red Army then, they had to travel from the south part of the country to the north and to the west. And when we say travel, it's not like they have a train to hop on or buses or even planes. They had to move with the effort of their two legs. So literally, they are just walking and passing the long distance.
Wow.
And we call it 长征. Literally, it's long expedition. Its proper or full name would be 长征, long march. It has not a lot to do with marching. It's more like a military maneuver.
Okay. Well, yeah, that clears up the picture, because immediately when you think of a long march, you think that there are maybe soldiers or people walking in sync to a certain location, but yeah, it's not necessarily like that, right?
No. And when we talk about the Long March, actually the Red Army marched through raging rivers, snowy mountains, and grasslands to break the grip of the country by the Kuomintang regimes, and they had to continue their fight against Japanese invaders, and they actually covered, or let's say they marched as far as 12,500 kilometers, enduring hunger, thirst, and cold. So they did conquer a lot of obstacles, and that is why by learning from them and seeing them as great examples, we would be able to handle today's obstacles and difficulties a little bit better. So there are different phrases and idioms we use to describe that heroic event. For example, we would say 与人民风雨同舟. Actually, 风雨同舟 is a idiom here. 风 means wind, 雨 is rain, and 同 means same, 舟 means boat. So no matter if it's raining or if it's very windy, so no matter the outside situation is, we are on the same boat and we fight together.
Okay.
风雨同舟.
风雨同舟.
Yes, 风雨同舟would be one word.
Tongzhou sounds like an area of Beijing.
Tongzhou, that's again different pronunciation here, or similar pronunciation, different tone. But yes, you're right. Tongzhou, and this one is Tong, same boat. Tongzhou. We actually previously talked about Tongzhou Gongji. That's also sailing in the same boat. Tongzhou. And there's also another word, 不惧艰难.
不艰艰.
不惧艰难.
艰难. Nan means difficulties.
Difficulties, so not afraid of difficulties, fearless of difficulties and problems. 不惧艰难. And there's also 顾全大局.
顾全
大局.
大局.
Yes, 顾全大局 means to take care.
Be mindful of something, right?
Yes, 顾全大局 means be mindful of the bigger picture. So you have to think of the bigger picture, the greater cause.
So 大 must mean bigger here.
Bigger,
right?
yes. Chinese people sometimes would say 把人民的利益放在第一位, so put the interest of the people first. I think that sentiment is quite popular for several generations, and when Chinese people use that phrase, put people's interest and the country's interest first, they're not talking about put the interest of other countries' people or other countries second, not at all. They're saying they will put people's interest first and their own interest second. So they would, like we said in the conversation, sacrifice their own interest, their own sometimes lives, so that they can achieve the greater cause of serving the people. I think it's really heroic. It's something that I would really love to learn from and practice in my daily life, because it's really hard. People can be selfish sometimes, in a neutral sense even.
Absolutely. People are very selfish.
So putting the interest of others first is something, in my opinion, heroic enough.
Yeah, but there are extremes. If you live this life of putting others first, then you set yourself back in life. You're hoping that these individuals will maybe balance that out and maybe help you because you help them so much. So
yeah, that sentiment happened too.
Right. So being selfish to an extreme is not good, but also, I don't know, if
you can actually be selfless to an extreme, like really you don't really care about whether or not people are paying you back, you just are happy about serving, then I see no problem with that.
No, it's good. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's getting philosophical.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
getting
yeah, yeah,
deeper.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we know
Different
that.
philosophies.
Different philosophies. But the reason that we're still talking about the Long March or the spirits of the Long March is because it has something to do with today's life. It, even though we do not have to get across rivers, we don't have to get on top of a snow mountain too much, we see difficulties in our lives as such, in a figuratively speaking. We see difficulties in our jobs. We see choices in front of us, the choice between helping others or just walk away, the choices between let's say, choose the right way against the easy way. We see all these a lot.
Sure.
And that is how relevant the spirit of the Long March is still. It still can be reflected today.
It's an interesting conclusion to draw on. You know, that the perseverance of these soldiers could be applied to, I guess, just persevering in other areas of life. You know, making sure that you're not too selfish, and you know, stick your neck out a little bit for others, and hopefully you'll be all right in the end. And I think that's just the spirit of you know, treating your neighbor as you would yourself. I think that's the same kind of philosophy there.
Yes. And when it comes to Long March, here in China, we would also talk about some stories about Long March. We say 长征故事, because many very moving stories happen there. When you said treating your neighbors like yourself, helping others, it happens with the soldiers that actually conducted the Long March. They would treat people very well, even though they didn't really have much themselves. They would provide help to the people. There's the story of actually in Hunan province, we have three soldiers, female soldiers in the Red Army, actually try to have a homestay experience in local people's house, and after they were ready to leave, they realized that that person, that home provider, was also in really poor and live in extreme poverty, so they decided to leave with them half of their quilt. It sounds almost ridiculous nowadays. It's almost surreal that you would leave half of your quilt to local people just because you think they are also in need of that. But for them, they're also facing a lot of problems. But as you can see, no matter how little they got, they still are, still were, still are, still willing to share.
Yeah. Selflessness.
Selflessness, yes.
Indeed.
Selflessness. In Chinese, you say 自私, that's selfish, and 无私.
无私.
无私. 私 means private or personal. 无 means have no. So if you take all of the working or, let's say, providing only for yourself kind of mentality out of your, let's say, head, that would be 无私, so selflessness, 无私.
Taking yourself out of the equation. Got it.
A little bit like that, yeah. 无私. So that would be one story I can still remember, and I would applaud too during the Long March. And we also promised a little story about rockets. Just you remember?
Yeah, you mentioned rockets earlier, and I don't see the relation.
Well, actually, the relation is only the naming of it.
Okay.
So the Long March rockets are a family of expendable launch system rockets operated by the China National Space Administration. Developed and designed, falls under the auspices of the China Academy of Launch Vessel Technology. So they are literally vessels or rockets. 长征 and 长征系列运载火箭, that's what we would say. 火箭 would be rockets. 长征 is the Long March, so they use 长征to name the rocket family, because the research and developing of the Long March series took also a really long time, and for them, they have already covered, or they believe they've covered this long distance, this long journey, and it is nice to call a rocket system Long March because the rockets also have to cover a long distance.
That makes perfect sense.
Thank you. And that makes up the recording part of this live stream, or actually of the podcast. The live stream goes on.
Right.
When we talk about...
I'm wondering what other people have to say about the rockets and
Me
the long
too.
march.
Well, actually, I willingly put it in because previously I was working on another podcast series. It's called Old Wisdom, New Insights. Tony contributed to it as well, playing a very important role in the series. So if you guys are interested, make sure to search for Old Wisdom, New Insights wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. It takes around 10 minutes for each episode, and in each episode you would hear a legendary or more than one legendary stories about this important historical figure here in China. This person...
And someone acts the voice, and hopefully they try to get it right.
Oh yeah, they got it right. I enjoy them so much. And you would be able to learn a little bit Chinese history and Chinese culture. Of course, in English, because, yeah, I made that podcast. And when I was doing the research, I realized that one of the person's son in one of my series, he's called Liang Sicheng, the main, Liang Qichao was the main character, and he's got a lot of very important, I would say important children, because those children were actually important to China's development. They were masters in their respective fields. And one of his sons, Liang Sili, was one of the leaders in the research team of the Changzheng Long March rockets. And yeah, I just gonna include it in because I got that information, wanted to share. It was very fun. And if you want to know what is a dad of a rocket scientist like, you can listen to the podcast.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yes. In the meantime, let's see who's still with us in today's live stream and asking questions. We've got still many of you sending in comments and talking about the presentation as well as the live stream. Ooh, yes, as well as the topic. I think it's still relatively a, how do I put it, a topic that you're not quite familiar of. But you can relate it as, think about the heroic things that your previous generations has done to save the country, to free the people, to create the kind of life you are enjoying today. That might be relevant. So is there a history story you'd like to share with us, Tony? History-related story that you can think of, or a heroic act or a heroic story?
On the spot, how about we listen to a few more comments?
Of course, we have Ismail saying, thanks for their good works. Yes, I agree. Nowadays, we live in peace and prosperity, even though, yeah, when Tony said it is something that is not very often seen in daily conversations anymore. We don't say 和平, 繁荣, 稳定. We don't say these things. I would say we don't say these things too much or enough in our daily conversation. Though, if you think about it, tomorrow is only the 85th anniversary of the winning. It's not so long ago. It's just one person's life expectancy, right? It's just one person's life.
Right.
It's just one person ago. Only one person ago, we were living in definite, absolute war and instability, and people had to worry about whether or not we can put food on the table tomorrow. And it's not only for China, it's for people all around the world. It's during Second World War.
Yeah, I mean, in the U.S., as an African American, we've done a lot of marches and battled a lot of different systems of racism. So yes, what has happened in the past should be learned so that the youth or the current generation can know what their ancestors have gone through to make things a bit better for them and to keep up the fight. Yes,
and also we have some friends saying thank you for the translation, still watching, thank you. And also we have Maurice saying, or Marai saying, Niuniu, your work is very much appreciated, and Tony, and thank you. I am native to the Chinese language, and it has been somewhat difficult for me, but you guys have been adding some clarity to my struggle with learning Chinese. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated.
She's a native?
Or I think it's
Chinese speaker?
Novice.
Hmm.
Novice.
Okay.
And we also have Ismail saying Upper West Region, WA Ghana. I think that's where you're from, or where you're watching.
Nice. All right.
And also we have Afzal saying love China. Vivian saying I will rewatch again this later from the very beginning. I think it's because you were late. Yes, in the first part of the show, you would be able to learn the words and expressions word by word. I think rewatching would make it easier for you if you want to know how to use these expressions in your daily life.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, and also we have Giovanni saying, I've seen the Old Wisdom series on Facebook, Niuniu. Thank you. We call it Old Wisdom New Insights, or 温故知新 in Chinese. And these stories, I would say, can be quite fun. We would pick the fun life stories of the significant people here in China, and I'm very glad you enjoyed it. And we've got another comment here saying, it's kind of a sweet comment I saw online. It's from Gold EQ saying, my late grandfather talks about the Long March and how they repair the shoes with straws. They were too poor, they even used garlic as medicine. I was young, I didn't pay attention. After the World War II brought back to Japanese, the present soldier then was chased and killed by other soldiers. Not until recently I watched YouTube history about the Chinese Revolution and about the Chinese history and saw the Long March soldiers were the straw saddles. So yeah, I think even for people with Chinese related background, or even, let's say, Chinese living in other countries, they would find this piece of history a little bit further away, yet it wasn't.
Yeah, it's interesting how the history is, yeah, not so far away. It's actually, we wear it in our face, we wear it in everything that we do.
Yes, and thank you guys so much for being with us today. And we have many interesting comments related, or not too much related to this topic, but still always related to Chinese culture and Chinese language. And thank you guys so very much for being with us this entire 1 hour. Hopefully you've taken something away. As always, when we do live streams, no matter whether or not it's inside the studio or out there showing you different places and fun activities, we welcome your questions, comments, and of course your shares and likes. And if you have any other questions, you can continue to leave it in the comment area. We're live streaming on CRI Learn Chinese Facebook page, YouTube channel, and 英语环球广播微博. Thank you so very much again. We will see you next time. Bye bye,
See you later, guys. Thanks for joining us.